Pick it up. We'll call the meeting to order. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Treaty 1 territory and the traditional homeland of the Métis Nation. I'll introduce the panel members first, and that will be Brent McIntyre to my far left, Jeff Boucher to my left. The assessor today will be Marina Tanawara, and our secretary today will be Kelsey Harrison. We'll be hearing applications for revision of assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussions to those matters. The statements that applicants or the assessor make at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matter must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessment of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the Board's decision with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or the Court of Queen's Bench if the matter pertains to an application of exemption from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the Board order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the matters to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard, and the Board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the order by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. Please put your phones on silent. Swear there, please. Red is dead.
Could you please state your name?
Morina Gantika Temur.
And you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Thank you.
Could you please state your name?
Rocky Newell.
And do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
First file today is 910 Wall Street, and we have liability to taxation, amount of assessed value, and classification of property. Are you going ahead with those, Mr. President?
No, liability's been resolved through an agreement a few months ago,
Okay, and classification is resolved as well then?
and that's correct.
So is that withdrawn then?
You'll withdraw them.
Sure.
And when you are ready, Marina.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Recommendation, I will put it on Mr. President.
Whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Property roll number 130113350000. Property address 910 Wall Street. Property owner 6918892 Manitoba Limited. Property originally valued as a two classification. One for 40S, the other one is 60T. Today I am making a recommendation reducing both values to following my calculation sheet because it has a 4 income stream. Can you please follow the calculation sheet? In the last page, you can see my recommendation to reduce value to 4,033,000, which include 40S portion of 324,000.
That's the 40S?
That's the 40S. 40S is 324,000.
Okay.
And total market value is 433,000.
Are you okay with that, Roger?
No, unfortunately.
Okay.
Okay, carry on.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Property parcel classified as a neighborhood shopping center. This property has, can you please move to page number 4 and 5? This is the linear parcel. It has a co-op and car wash, and the value lot which classified as a retail warehouse, and the portion used for St. Amon Center used to be Camden Credit Union, now it's used for the St. Amon Center. Those are the pictures to see what type of property. And my page number 2 showing comparables. The first chart is for the comparables for the retail warehouse portion. Retail warehouse rates vary from $12 to $5 for this type of retail warehouse location. The other comparable sheet for the gas bars and the pad side rents. Car wash rates vary from $7.72 to $10.50. Most of the gas kiosks are used as the pad leases, but we have net leases of range in the last one before last column. It is range from $29 to $188. So my page number 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 are the original valuation. If I compare my original valuation to what I'm recommending today, I can go one by one. Car wash, original rent was $9.33 per square feet for the car wash. And I override the cap rate to 6.75, which is the cap rate for the gas kiosk, because it's a car wash and gas kiosk. It's almost the same. We use the same cap rate. That's the one change I made for my recommendation. Gas kiosk rent stay the same. Car wash is to stay the same, but additional building value reduced for $808,000 to $648,000 based on the new depreciation table and the new I reviewed all the additional buildings, and based on my review I reduced the additional building value. What's the other reason for the reduction? And neighborhood shopping center portion, now I use as a retail warehouse. I classify it as a retail warehouse. It's more like the retail warehouse, not the neighborhood shopping center. So I use the $5.75 for the entire, most of the area, which is used by value lot. That's the same rent we also used by the agent. So use the same cap rate. It's 8% cap rate. It's the retail cap rate. And the St. Amon Center, that's the 4 years portion, use rental rate as $8 for 3,600 square feet. Use the same cap rate as $8 retail warehouse cap rate. Those are the changes I made to make a recommendation. And also my recommendation, you will see other income. I use the $11,640 as a other income. I put in line in this page, summary page. You can see the other income in the bottom line. That's the other income reported by owner. If you move, please move to income statement attached with my brief. And you can see owner reported parking rent of 8,304 and sign rent of 3,360. Also other rent, I don't know what the other rent means. I did not include as other income for other rent because I don't know what it is. The clearly parking income and sign rent I included as other income for category in neighborhood shopping center, retail warehouse. That's how I calculated my original, my recommendation this time. In last page of income statement, master rent roll shows where they get from the parking revenue, where they get from the sign rental income. And co-op is the land lease. And St. Amount Center and the Northwest Company pay the rent. The rents are pretty in line with what they are collecting. And based on this evidence, I am asking to reduce value to 4,33,000 for this, sorry, 4,033,000 for this property. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Questions, Rocky?
Okay, so your original valuation was all by the model then?
Yes.
And the changes were a cap for the car wash,
Cap for the car wash
Additional
and the
building
additional
value
building value
for the-
in the car
gas station,
gas station.
and rent for,
Rent change for the St. Amount Center and the retail warehouse both. Little bit, slightly little change.
where is the calculation of the additional building value? I know it's down from 808 to 648, so where is the detail on this?
We don't have these ones, those are the detached structures, the mainly underground tanks
Tanks,
and the shelter,
the canopy,
canopy.
and the pipes from the tanks to the
Yes,
pump?
the gas pumps,
Okay.
those are the ones.
Right.
Then also we have the depreciation table changed a little bit, that's the one reason for it's lower.
Okay, so what, do you know what the depreciation is on this then?
I can't remember all the detail because it's a different depreciation for the
Right.
pipes and those ones. No, I can't remember. I did not bring those information here.
Well, I'm just wondering because, do you have the number from last year?
As I remember, I don't have the exact number. I'm worrying to telling something on.
But I
top of my-
have the original amount that was
Okay.
asked for, but I don't have the number on your recommendation from last year.
No, I don't bring it here.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, and because it was a 15-1 agreement.
Yeah, it's a 15-1.
It wasn't provided. But the agreement we had last year was, there was a reduction on those parts, the canopy, the pump tank, and.
Yeah, I follow the same thing. That's why I make a recommendation to reduce the value.
Right,
Yeah.
well, I'll refresh your memory. Last year was, there were two items. One was 366,000 on the gas, and then there was 322 additional building value on the retail section. So I have 366,000 as the original for the gas, additional building value for the gas kiosk.
Yeah, but I did some review on how we calculated the
Right.
detached value, because it's the replacement cost change for the every year. Then it's the value change too, our additional building value change. Some years the replacement cost is higher than the last cycle.
Sure.
Yeah, that's the one reason.
But, sorry, replacement cost or reproduction cost?
Replacement cost for
Now,
the gas.
what's underground there now?
gas tanks.
Do you know
And
what type of tank they are?
As I know, it's a double wall fiberglass.
So when you say that replacement cost has gone up, that's because the new standard for gas tanks is higher, and it'll cost them more money though.
Honestly, I don't know that much of detail, because I did not do that much of thorough
But
study.
they don't have the new standard in the ground, they have the old standard in the ground.
I think this is a very new gas station, 2006. I don't know about what's the standard you were talking about. This is built in 2006.
So 2006, and the physical condition as of the year of appeal, which is 2020, so 14-year-old gas tanks?
Yes.
Okay, what's the life expectancy of a gas tank, and not by physical, but by statute?
I don't know.
You're not
I
aware
can't.
it's-
I take those ones. I can't remember on top of my
Well,
head.
you're not aware that it's 20 years by statute?
I don't know. Yeah, honestly, no.
And the piping, the same thing?
Because we use the Marshall and Swift, but I really don't know about much detail about to talk about this one.
Well, I understand, but the taxpayer does have the right to ask questions about
Yes.
how you assess, and
Yeah.
you have provided this information on the work up here, have you?
You mean the detached
The
structure?
details on how it's been calculated.
No, detached structure we usually don't do.
Now, you have 4 different revenue streams and two different capitalization rates.
Yes.
Is the property one title?
Property, yes, it
So
should be one title.
If it's sold, it would sell as on one transaction, it wouldn't be split and sold?
As I know, it's a one transaction, I don't know much.
Okay. And because it has gas tanks on site, does your model make an allocation for the fact that there's an Environment Manitoba inspection and certification process, and the property will get a impacted site designation? Does your model do anything with that?
I don't know, because this one is not impacted site, as I know.
It's not listed as
Listed
impacted.
as impacted site,
But
if
you-
it's listed,
You
it
know
should
how
be. I don't
know. You know it should be, right? And
This is not listed.
if it came to sale, you're aware that there would be a mandatory requirement to have a phase 2, done on it?
I don't know.
Okay. Those are my questions, thank you.
Brent,
I have no questions, thank you.
Jeff,
You may have said it, I may have missed it, just want to confirm, there is a sale of the subject property, 2014, 3.8.
Yes, that's,
And then are there permits that you've done any checking on to see, confirm the nature of any work done since that time?
after 2006, after they built the gas bar, I don't see any others. I
Okay.
didn't see, other than the St. Amon Center moved in, it's a occupancy change.
Okay,
They moved in 2017,
okay,
yeah.
all right. And then just to confirm, the income statement you provided was prepared by the owner?
Sometimes it's prepared by owner, sometimes they're management company. Unfortunately,
Either the
Not-
owner or
The
the agent
management
on
of-
behalf of
yes,
the owner?
on
Okay.
behalf of.
Thank you, no other questions.
Mr. Neufeld, on with your presentation, please.
Thank you. History on this site, I've been involved with the site for now about 15, 16 years. It has a very interesting set of issues with it in terms of recoveries, in that the Co-op Gas Bar and Northwest Company, who are their major indoor tenant, have different recovery rates for taxes, and the site is perpetually in dispute as to recovery of those issues. And the statements will bear that out. Now, on page 3, the statement provided, the third grouping, recovery adjustments, So it's a negative adjustment of almost $6,700. So this is not a one-shot. This is an ongoing problem. Northwest Company commissions a lease audit, and then they dispute their share of the recovery costs. And this particular year, there was then a charge to the income, and this is not a one-off. This is an ongoing process. So this does form part of the financial statement. Strange coincidence, an hour ago I was talking to the property manager about this year's dispute. It will go on and on. Now, the root problem for it is that the leases were originally written with Northwest to say that recovery is to be done on a per square foot basis. But co-op gas bar, if it's done on a per square foot basis with a very small footprint, gets a really good break on the taxes. And their lease is written differently on recovery basis as well. And my first involvement with it was I provided advice to say, stop this stupid recovery by square foot. Do it based on the way the assessment's made up. And then it'd be great, because then every year we'd appeal, and we'd talk to Marina, and Marina would give us the statement like this, and the recoveries are very simple. We just follow the formula. But we can't. We're stuck with it. So that's why those non-recoverables are in there. You buy the building, you inherit it. Now, this also speaks to the purchase situation. This didn't really start to be a problem until the purchase happened, and then Northwest began requesting their annual lease audits, and we're still dealing with it. The other thing that happened after the purchase is that the credit union that was in there and was paying more rent vacated, and they were replaced by St. Amant Center, and Northwest was paying, I think, credit union was paying about $11 or $12 a foot, and St. Amant is only paying $8 a foot. So it's declined since sale, and that's to be expected because it's on Wall Street. Very simple. So we're using the actual statement, and on that basis, we're prepared to accept the entire statement as being an indication of potential income. There are a mix of gross and net and semi-gross leases. So the income that we're showing on page 4 is what we're using on page 1. And then we have taken an allowance for vacancy, and we're a little bit different than the assessors that we use the Johnson report. And actually, I would beg to differ with this characterization. It's not St. James, which they used. You can see we used 5.2 overall, and then St. James at 7.3. This is actually West End. Our staff is geographically challenged, not as bad as Mr. Trump, but close. West End is a lower vacancy than this. So on that basis, we're probably should have adjusted this downwards to about a 5% rate. So we are a little high on our vacancy. I haven't given you a new calculation. Oh, sorry, at the outset, I should have mentioned something. Our office is doing a QSPAP review for the Appraisal Institute in terms of compliance. I'm an accredited appraiser, but I'm not here on a valuation basis. I'm here on a consulting basis. And the rules changed this year, so we want to make sure we're in compliance. So because I don't prepare the valuations, I don't have to follow that standard, and these are non-QSPAP reports. But I am doing my consulting, I think, under the designation. So if I have a change to suggest to you, it's not my change, unless I can prove it with the data here. It'll be the office change, which we're kind of scrambling now to have them, we bring things to their attention and say we should adjust. So I think we've come to the conclusion that we do have to bring our vacancy down a bit, and it would increase the NOI. I don't have a hard number for you, and it's not a major amount, but it's basically going to be a 15% reduction in vacancy and shortfall, which would be 3,000 plus another 1,000. about a $4,000 increase in NOI. That's what the office came up with. So that would actually bring our NOI up to about 226,000. Now, the other thing that the office decided was that the cap rate, that a far better example for the cap rate would be looking at the Colliers report. This doesn't meet the Colliers standards for retail because it's old, it's mixed use, it's a poor location. But our caps, we did have an interesting sale to consider, which was a strip on Portage Avenue that capped at 7.96%, 1799 Portage. I did the appraisal on that, so I can verify that that was my number, 7.96%. So, and then reviewing the assessor's rate of 8%, we feel that 8% overall is probably fair. And you would never put a lower rate on different parts of the property, especially anything related to gasoline or car washes. And the reason is very, very simple. Gasoline items have a lifespan of 20 years on pumps, 10 years on pumps, 20 years on tanks and pipes. Car washes have a very low lifespan because the moisture kills them. They have a lower economic life. So the cap arguably should be much, much higher. So 226,000 at 8% is a value of $2,825,000. The exempt is 10.47%, and that's for St. Amant. It's a seminary of learning for autistic children. So the school exempt, we're looking for a value of $296,000. And the taxable at $2,529,000. That's actual income. Now, the last issue is the canopy, the pumps, the tanks. Last year, that number was presented to this board at $322,000. I have it right here. And there was a reduction with 15-1, and part of it was they had an additional building value allocated to the, sorry, I apologize, 366,000. They had an additional value allocated to the retail shopping center, which was removed, I believe. Not putting words in anyone's mouth, but my recollection, because the original amount was $4,534,000, and we were given a recommendation of $3,788,000, sorry. So it was $366,000, and I thank the assessor for recommending some reductions to it to $648,000. We don't have the workup though. So how can we challenge a mystery? That's not the way assessment should work, whether the owner should be given these details. Because anyone who's been in the gasoline business in any way whatsoever knows that the government is mandating a 20-year life on tanks. Now, you can get it extended with permit, inspection and permit, and it also can be extended if you have a better quality tank. The concept of replacement cost being higher, who cares? Because that's today's standard. We're dealing with what's in the ground, put in 2006. Changes were made after 2006 to Manitoba environment for tanks. But they have a 20-year life. It's already 14 years into a 20-year life. Value going down, not up. And when tanks get done, all the pipes are redone. Sometimes they're reused and re-inspected with joints and connections redone. And sometimes they do a complete replacement. It depends on their condition. Pumps have a 10-year life. There's another issue where you have to value what's on the site, not what's could come. If you have modern POS systems connected to credit cards at the site, and that's the new norm, who cares? It's what's actually there. It hasn't changed. Now, co-op is a little bit more lenient than Esso and Shell, who do a 10-year program, replace your pumps or else. Some of you may know that I have some background in this business. Years and years ago, we were an affiliate of Esso in the 70s, well before I moved to Winnipeg. So this does come from personal knowledge of the standards. The canopies, that's part of the image program. Again, Esso, Shell, 10 years, change it. You have to. Co-op, a little bit more lenient, but again, these things don't get newer. They don't get worth more. We had 366,000, and this is the tenant's property too, not the owner's. So it's theirs. We understand it has to be taxed. So only thing I can suggest is we had 366,000. There's no evidence to suggest how that was made. We know for definitely anyone, common knowledge is it goes down, not up. We were waiting for the assessor's information. We haven't supplied rebuttal either than the verbal, but we're willing to add 366,000 for the tanks. So that takes us to 2,529 plus 366,000 is 2,895,000 taxable, 296,000 exempt, for a total value of 3,191,000. Lower than last year, because the tanks are getting older, not better. And we lost a tenant, and a $12 tenant replaced him with an $8 tenant. And we have more charges against the property in reconciliation of tax recoveries, which moves us from being a net lease to a semi-gross lease. And that's why we're looking for lower. Thank you, that's my presentation.
Marina, questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Neufeld, can you please understand me? Can you explain to me what's your NOI for this property?
Yeah, the NOI was 263,478 on the potential income, and from that we have to subtract vacancy risk and shortfall and a structural reserve.
Yeah.
And that's
what's
how-
the NOI?
That's how we get to originally 221,952. Then, as I pointed out, our people selected the wrong district, so the vacancy should be 5%, not 6.3. So I adjusted that upwards by $4,000, which is just an estimate, to 226,000. So as full, 263,478, which is the same number that's on the statement on page 4.
And what's the cap rate you applied?
The cap rate is, we're agreeing with the cap rate that you applied on the major portion at 8%. And also, that we did have market evidence to support it. We want that extended to all parts of the operation because it can't be sold separately. And the gas is the worst part.
And what's your additional building value?
Well, I don't have one. We had accepted 366,000 in the last cycle. My evidence is cost value going down, not up. But we were willing to accept 366,000, so we will again.
And how do you come up with the school tax portion, 48th portion?
10.47% of the gross was attributable to Saint Amant. And so on the income side, we've done it on a pure income calculation. We did not do a separate revenue stream for it.
Okay. Okay.
And on that basis, we're flexible. I know you're at 324,000. Our number is lower, but that's because our overall number is lower. I think we're in the same area, proportion-wise. Actually, yeah, your number is 10 point, on the NOI side, that is. Yeah, your number is 10.1%, and we're at 10.47%, so either number is acceptable.
Thank you. I have one more question for you. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm okay. I don't have more questions.
Jeff,
I have none, thank you.
Brent,
And I have no questions.
your structural reserve, what's that for on this property?
Generally, we apply structural for roof replacement, and we use 25 cents a foot because 25 cents a foot over 25 years equals about the $20 a foot cost for a roof to be redone. And it would account, that's the major issue for replacement reserve. There's no elevator in this building, so that would, means, you're looking towards the lower end rather than the upper end, and the owner's not responsible for the pumps and the tanks, so we're not accounting, nor for the canopies. So we're only accounting, we applied it to the 25 cents to the rentable square footage.
So he's not responsible for anything on the gas side? They would go up the store as well,
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of the lease, because it was there when it went up.
just a land lease.
Yes, that's correct. So yes, that's a good point. So we wouldn't take the reserve on the gas site at all, so we can take that off. So our NOI bumps up a bit by about $1,000. I'm glad you remembered that. So NOI would be 227,000.
You agreed to this $3,788,000 last year, and you're saying it's because it's depreciated more since then, but there's no cost to the person who's doing the leasing,
No,
because the oil company picks it up.
correct, but the city is adding it on as a leasehold estate, as to the assessment. The fee simple in this case is going to be the $2,825,000, as I
Yep.
say, because you know, the gas stuff gets has no value whatsoever. But the city has the right to tax the leasehold, so they've added this as an adjustment to tax the leasehold. By law, we can't disagree with that, they have that right. So it does go down, and the decline, as I mentioned, the two declines was one is the decline in the actual income due a bank lease versus the same lawn lease, and the Northwest Company challenging the tax appeals, and obviously I can't comment if they're right or they're wrong, but the statement speaks to what that's costing. I'm just digging up the credit union lease here somewhere, where it's declined. Oh, right, there was one other thing, there was some on-site parking to Adams Supply and Clearline Group.
That was the $1,800?
Well, it is now 8304, and that's gone down as well.
So what was the $1,800 then? On the
For,
bottom? Says other.
There's sign rental income, other rental income. I don't know. Let me just look at my statement here. Sign is all to Northwest Company. Oh, no. I misspoke, parking rent is identical as it was 2 years ago. I just can't find what other it is.
You spoke about the 6,000, well, you called it 6,700 worth of total recovery adjustments to the negative. Where does that show up on your statement? Or did you take that off of the
No,
NOI?
it's in the statement already, on page 3.
Yeah, but where is it on here, on your page 1?
Oh, because we went straight to the bottom line on page 4. Well, we review like if this was a prior period adjustment where it affected a prior period, obviously, we would be required to investigate that and determine if it's a real operating expense, and because of our knowledge with the dispute, we knew it was an actual, so it's a negative adjustment to income, which means it is a deduction.
So then why does the vacancy show up? If we're using that?
That's
shouldn't
not
that be-
that's not a vacancy. That's a tax recovery, a recovery dispute.
Yeah, but you got vacancy on your front thing here for 5%.
Right, and that's a
That's-
normal market vacancy, with everybody gets charged regardless if they're full or not.
Yes. But
Yeah.
you just said you're using actuals, wouldn't the actuals have?
There was no
absorbed that?
vacancy. So you still always have to apply a vacancy risk, full or empty. Now, what we do is if we're having a vacancy that's worse than market, we would look at the quality of the vacancy, determine if it was long-term, short-term. If it was long-term, we would use it, and if it was short-term, we would adjust backwards to full and then subtract 5%. Now, if you're full, you still gotta take off 5%.
And that's using the Johnson & Johnson,
Well, we're using Johnson, yes.
because the city was using like 4%, 2%.
Yeah, they've never told us what they use. They've never shown the data, and I provide the Johnson because the data is transparent and available for review. Like, one of the problems with using the other reason for not using St. James, which I said my reason for the adjustment, is because St. James was impacted by Sears. It shouldn't have been 7.3%. So the person who prepared this report originally should have said, oh, yeah, we've got a problem in here, we shouldn't have used that. Should have relied on either the citywide rate or adjusted it, which is what we ended up deciding in the long run should be done, and hence the adjustment.
Okay, thank you. Did you get them signed up yet?
You just sign at the bottom.
Yeah. Okay. I'll just- I was just looking for history on bank, what the rate was.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move on to the property at 980 St. Anne's Road for amount of assessed value. When you are ready, Marina.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Property roll number 0808-121-8210. Property address 980 St. Anne's Road. Property owner Zebras Enterprises Limited. Property value as for 2020 $3,704,000. Property use code as the neighborhood shopping center. Property actually built in 2016, effective age 2017. You can see page number 2, property has a sales history. it is a 1 million. It is a empty land, vacant land. It was sold in 2014 for 1 million. Page number 2, bottom part, you can see lease information. Lease varies 24, it approximates $24 for all the leases. And my page number 3 is my rent comparables, sorry. Page number 4, model driven income calculation for this property.
I think on this one, you can go right to the cap rate, Marina.
Okay.
He's got a higher rent than you anyway.
Yeah, that's a,
Anybody that
yeah.
asked me, I consent.
Yeah, and we are, in this property, me and agent almost agree to everything as per the model. But cap rate is 6.4% because this is a brand new property and the location. It has a lower cap rate. They're using 6.4 cap rate, our value 3,704,000. This property value for last cycle 2,776,000. The last cycle cap rate was 6.75, and also we use negative adjustment of unfinished area. One unit was vacant at that time. We were given unfinished allowance to have a lower value for this property last cycle, because now this property fully occupied, has a strong leases, and you can see the lease information attached with my brief. All net rent paid.
What was that number you gave again, Marina?
Pardon me?
2 million?
Last cycle?
Yeah.
So last cycle, 2,776,000. The number in, I think, applicants.
Okay. And his number is different.
It's different. I checked this morning. It's different. That's the reason I checked this one, because I am very familiar with this property. I worked from the beginning up to now.
So 2766?
Yes, 2776 last cycle. And we were given unfinished allowance for the one unit. It's not fully occupied at that time. So I'm kindly asking confirm the value as it is. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Questions, Mr. Nico?
Yes, in terms, so this would be classified as a strip mall, which on page 6, is that then your strip mall line?
Yes, yeah, strip line. We have cap rate of 5.4 to 8.65 variation of cap rate.
54865, okay.
Yeah.
And then the 60th, the 20th to the 80th percentile, 64 to 705. So this was all done by the model and then applied at the 20th percentile?
You mean this chart?
Like, well, no, but this is all model?
It's all model.
And
It's all model.
confirm that the 6.4% is at the 20th percentile, which is at the lower end of the range?
Because of the location and the quality built here and the rents, all of those ones for the reason of 6.4, as my understanding.
Okay. And you mentioned while you were discussing this that there are strong leases. Now, are any of these people have a covenant strength more than local?
I checked last cycle. Also, as I remember, those are net traces, but at that time they received some tenant inducement, not.
No, but I meant is like the tenants themselves. There are no national tenants here, are there?
Oh, no.
They're all local people?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
No franchisee, nothing.
okay. Those are my questions, thank you.
Brent?
Just one question, page 1, the actual year is shown as 2016, yet there's an effective year 1 year later at 2017?
I got that one, yes. I think because originally we started putting into the system in 2016, and actually total building put it in 2017, somehow it's changed to 2017. We put the building into the system 2017. That it is, we need to change it to 2017 both years.
Okay, that was my only question, thank you.
I have none, thank you.
Jeff?
I have none, thank you.
Mr. Newfeld, on with your presentation.
Thank you. Yes, we're just gonna address caps here. That seems to be the area of disagreement. In doing so, we did review the information. For example, the assessor page 6 has presented their strip rates. And you'll note on that page that on the high end, Collier's, on their page 6, the Collier's rate is lower than CBRE or Cushman and Wakefield. And I've explained the reason for that. I know ours, as shown on page 19 and 20, is an advertising brochure. Our strips in the cycle here were listed at 6 to 675. Now, because we're now corporate, we get to look at the computer and see all of what goes in to make those rates, as well as knowing, for example, that page 23 is an indication of how we calculate those rates with closing costs. The actual rates in the strip malls in Winnipeg are shown on page 24. So this is a Collier's work product based on the same data that went into the rates, but has been recalculated to meet the same style of cap rate analysis that both we and an appraiser and the assessor both use. Remember that when you calculate a cap rate, you've got to do it with the same formula that you use to calculate your net income, which means you've got to have the vacancy allowances, shortfall, non-recoverables, et cetera, has to be done the same way. So this is basically what we have, is we've reworked it. So a strip is going to be between 7 and 8%. The definitions of a strip, though, don't change, and they're listed on page 22. First of all, they're looking for a food-anchored strip to meet the lowest values, lowest caps. 10 to 15 years old, we meet that. Major chain supermarket, no. Blend of national, regional, local, no. And that's the problem. Now, no one can tax somebody higher or lower depending on who that tenant is. Like, just if you had a good covenant, so you had the Royal Bank in there, who's a good covenant these days in grocery? Maybe nobody. They keep changing, but somebody who's got a national covenant strength, you don't tax that, but what you do is you tax the ability of the building to attract that type of tenant. This building could not attract the national branding, it only attracted local branding. And that's what we're talking, and therefore we have to push it to the higher end of the range, in our 7 to 8 range. Because of its lack of ability to attract any sort of national covenant. As far as comparables on this, I've always tried to stick to comparables where I have personal knowledge or else or very close to it. Some of the ones we looked at were on page 35 at 5114 Roblin. This is a strip mall, 15,000 square foot strip mall in Charleswood. It capped at 781, that's because it has a Royal Bank anchor. That's why it capped as low as it did. Now it's a slightly older sale. Some of the other ones I mentioned, 1799 Portage, which is older, it's got nothing but local covenants, 7.96%. And those were the two that I think that the authors of the report put the most reliance on and adjusted downwards for the age and location, because St. Patel is a better location to 775. And obviously, if someone wanted to argue 7.5, I don't know if I'd put much weight on that, simply because it hasn't been able to attract a good tenant. And clearly, I'm trying to say that you have to be able to attract a good tenant. And if you have nothing but local tenants, they're not strong. You look at the rent roll and well, how do I say this the right way? I mean, if any of them defaulted, we're not getting the money. So that's the problem with a property like this. That's why we're at 775 cap and a value of $3,109,000. That's the presentation.
Verena, questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Your comparables to this property in your page number 34 and 35, you compare this property equal to 1799 Cottage and 5114 Roblin Boulevard.
No.
Those are the cap rate you use
No,
to base.
it's superior to 1799 Portage in terms of the amenities it can offer. It's a superior building, it's comparable in the tenant mix, and location qualities are similar. There's more parking on the subject, so the cap rate should be better than 7.96. That was the conclusion.
Can you explain to me how you came up with the 7.75 cap rate?
Certainly, and I have to say that it's not the way I came up with it, it's the way the office came up with it. There, in my opinion, there is an error here. But we first of all start with the Collier's report that I mentioned on page 24. And the range is between 7 and 8%. So we'll start with the mean at 7.5%, and then look, what does it offer that's better or worse than the mean? Now, the changes the person who wrote this report did said quality and condition. I disagree. I think it all has to do with tenant strength and income stability. It should be 8 out of 8 on quality and condition, but on tenant strength and stability, it should be 7 out of 10. And that's the real reason. And because it's not that it doesn't have good tenants, it just does not have the ability to attract good tenants.
And how do you use as the optimal starting cap rate as a 7.5? How you choose this one? Because
I just said it's
yeah.
looking at the Collier's range, which is between 7 and 8.
But yeah, if I started with 7, I can understand why.
I'm
move to
sorry, I think I
7.5.
should start at 7.
No, because at least it started from, because that's the range, right? Starting 7 to 8.
Well, because there's negatives and positives on this. If there were a factor, this is a Winnipeg standard. So if you say that the typical Winnipeg income strength and growth potential and stability was 10, and then you had a site that had 2 anchors in it, like say it had a Royal Bank at one side and a Tim Hortons at the other side, then you would say it's better than 10, and then that drops it down. But most strip malls in Winnipeg don't. So that's part of.
But that means you are telling Winnipeg does not have any strip mall for the 7% cap rate?
No, there are some, and there's some, I remember a particular strip mall I did that had 4 out of 7 tenants all had national covenants on it, and it capped at a little bit under 7. But that's because it had 4 out of 7 tenants with a national covenant, and it held a place in the neighborhood that was good enough to attract them. So that's really the difference.
Okay, and this is a very general question for every property. Do you use this chart, the cap rate chart, for other than assessment, any appraisal work to
Oh,
cover?
yes, we use it in a lot of different applications, and.
For the appraisal, this
Yeah,
this type of cap rate
Right.
chart?
Well, yes, of course, because the 23 points are Collier's international standard. We always use, that's part of our valuation, is to use the 23 points that are identified. Now, it's up to the appraiser as to how they're applied. And some appraisers simply do inferior, similar, superior classification, and some try to weigh them out. When we did this chart, we decided to weigh them out, and this wasn't me deciding. This is a consultative process, talking to our brokers, talking to other appraisers, getting a consensus on how we would arrive at that, what's more important. And the other modification on it versus others is that when you're doing for ad valorem assessment, the weight put on them would differ. In the real world, you would see tenant strength going much, much higher, because it's not only the ability to attract an international covenant is the fact that in the real investment world, you're capping because there is that tenant. So there's that issue to consider as well. So it has been weighted slightly differently than if it were in another application.
Okay, this is the last question. I know all the tenant moving between period of 2017. Do you know an average lease term for these tenants?
Lease terms?
Yeah. Approximately average?
Well, it's gotta be covenant-based as well. Because if you have a strong covenant from a good user, you're gonna try to get a long-term, a 10, and then renewals, and to keep them in as long as possible. When you have a local one, you tend to go for 5 years, because something better might come along.
Yeah, do you agree, even those are local tenants, they have a 10-year leases?
Well, my opinion on this is that I wouldn't feel comfortable with a 10-year lease on anyone with a weaker covenant, simply because something better can come along. When we look at 5s, if you like this covenant strength, long-term. If it's weak, short-term. It's just.
That's your opinion, right?
No, we're the largest leasing company in Winnipeg. It's not opinion, it's practice.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, that's all my questions.
Brent,
I have no question.
Jeff,
I have no questions, thank you.
your page 3, Mr. Adult, that's the 2018 air sheet?
That's correct.
I guess there would have been a 2017, because I
That's
just
correct.
got built. That's why. So this is post, right?
That's correct.
And the information you're using is post?
Well, all the leases were written before the reference date, and would indicate that $259,000 was the contemplated net rent. There was never been a full year of performance determined. But because of this reason, when we actually get a financial statement, we may find out that there are some non-recoverables. The difficulty with this is the person who fills this out is not, we would say, they're not a qualified appraiser or property manager. They said, well, they think it's net, but that's their statement for now. Next year's actual financials, we'll see if that's actually the case.
Oh, there's, the last one on the list is a national.
No, it's a franchise,
Is it a franchise?
Yes.
If it's a national franchise.
local covenant. And right now, I don't know, like, when we go through these, and I remember we had this hearing a couple of weeks ago, and someone said, well, it's a pizza, it's an international franchise. It turns out that the franchisee is one of the property managers in our office, so I don't think you want her signature on the line for your covenant. And the head office doesn't sign these, they all stopped doing it. It used to be the norm, but now no international company will underwrite a lease.
And then going to your cap rates, the one property that you didn't talk about, 3554 Pembina Highway, that's 7.8. How did that compare to this property at all?
Well, that came from a third party, and I'm reporting it at based on what the third party told me about. I don't know enough about it to come before you and say, hey, that's a strong cap, that's a weak cap.
But age-wise, it's an old building.
It's an older building, yes, but it's in the best neighborhood in the city.
Oh, definitely. Definitely the best neighborhood.
No, it's I don't know enough about it to come here to,
Okay, I'll leave it alone. We'll move on. As soon as I put my papers together.
and I have a short conclusion,
You got a short solution? Okay.
short summation.
Okay, short summation. You got a summation as well?
No,
Okay,
I'm
go ahead on
okay.
your short summation.
Well, in addition to, as I was mentioning, the weak covenant strength, and the inability to attract that, we also have a first-year operation without statements. So all of these claims that their net rents are interesting, but until we see the first statement, would indicate some uncertainty that they can actually perform at that rate. So again, higher cap to account for that.
Good. We'll move on to the next property. 1424 McPhillips, amount of assessed value. Marina, when you are ready. I think we'll take a short break after this one.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Property roll number 0500516810. Property address 1424 McPhillips Street. Property classified as a neighborhood shopping center. Property actually built in 1983. Use effective age as 1983. My page number 2 does not have much information. Page number 3 is the rent comparables. Page number 4 is the income value. My income value based on the model driven using 2 rents. One is the one rent for the $14.28 rent for the thrift store. The $16.41 rent for the children's dental world. Then I use the model driven, all the model driven values and cap rate model driven based on the location, 7.3 cap rate. And if I compare these ones, our rents, mine and agents, I compare, those numbers are very close. The differences in the cap rate mainly.
Because he's got 1,000 square feet more than you.
Yeah, the square footage wise, he has a little bit more space than me. So, I have pictures in page number 5. And also, I have rent rolls included in there. They are collecting semi-gross rents, and I calculated for the per square foot rate. Salvation Army is paying $13 per square feet, and Dental World paying $19.59 per square feet, as they reported. Those and using those numbers, I'm asking to confirm the value as it is for this property. That means $3,604,000. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Newfield, questions?
Yes, was this all done by the model?
Yes.
And you're calling it a neighborhood shopping center?
This property park used as a neighborhood shopping center.
What makes it a neighborhood shopping center?
Honestly, to me, my opinion, should not be neighborhood shopping center. This should be strip mall, but then it's a 2-unit strip mall. Then we don't have a real correct category to put in. If I put it in the retail warehouse, they will get the really low cap rate of 6.3.
So it's fair
kind
to
of
say that
very, very, very.
it doesn't fit
Fit
a
for the
category of any
one.
site perfectly.
Yes.
Okay.
That's why it's just called neighborhood shopping center.
Thank you, those are my questions.
Brett?
No question.
Jeff?
I have nothing.
I've got nothing either, because you answered it, because part of it would be warehouse, part of it would be, on with your presentation.
Yes, we have a minor difference in net income. The square footage is, I don't know where those numbers came from. There was a dispute a few years ago on area and dimensions. Okay, well, it hasn't been resolved.
you're bigger than,
Yeah, but we're dealing with the leasable area and actual income, and the point is that we can use a smaller number, but our income's gonna stay the same, so, I don't think it's an issue.
no, your income is still higher, that's all.
My NOI is lower, but, again, we're not here to dispute $6,000
Nope.
difference on NOI, so it's the cap rate. Bottom line is, once you've, and I'm not very politically correct here, but once you've reached the stage where you have to rent to the Salvation Army, your property is already at the lower end of the range in everything. This is not classified as a strip or neighborhood shopping center, it's miscellaneous retail. Our system doesn't track properties like this because they don't fit hot investor interest. Now, hopefully that's not regarded as a slur, it's just what it is. The market has spoken. We don't think it's, we have no interest in it. And the properties, that the users who rent sites like this, and be it thrift store, value village, dollar stores, are looking for value, cheap rents. And they're getting it when you have a building that's really been obsolete for any other user. And that's why we're looking at the higher caps. The other issue to deal with in terms of the value of it is with semi-gross rents, the owner is subject to variances in operating costs, not the tenant. So in the last building and some of the other ones, if the taxes went up, give the bill to the tenant. In this case, taxes go up, owner pays. So that makes it a riskier investment rate. And I did not select 825, but I think that properties like this do tend to cap higher than that, simply because they're exposed to a higher degree of risk. As to ones that I could point out that were somewhat similar, the only one I have some knowledge of is on the bottom of page 34, 819 Sargent. Again, reached the stage where it wasn't able to attract more than the miscellaneous user because of its design. It has different design issues with the second floor being no longer of interest to the market. And that one, of course, has a significant location factor on Sargent that would impact its cap rate. No great examples on this. They are miscellaneous and they don't regularly transact. The Colliers, as I mentioned, doesn't track them. It would be higher than our range. And so 825 was selected, so I will stick with that. But again, two major issues is once you're catering to this style of user, it's dropped in interest. The Covenant, even though the Salvation Army, I should say, is a wonderful organization, they do great things, but the Covenant strength is weak. No one's going to pursue them on default and their charitable status. It's not deemed, these aren't slurs against anyone other than say investors don't like properties like this. They aren't gonna get excited, I'm gonna buy myself a Salvation Army rented place. They don't like them. And the semi-gross, the exposure to rising costs. Thank you.
Marina.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Newfeld, your vacancy is 7.3. This property never been experienced a vacancy. Why it's the upward adjustment?
Well, a vacancy is a risk. It's not an experience all the time unless it reaches the level where it's chronic. And the risk measurement on this is higher. If you have, it's actually worse than a strip mall because there's only two tenants. If one leaves, 50% of your income is lost for whatever period it's gone. If it's 6 months, that's a 25% vacancy. And that's what the vacancy risk should account for. In this particular case, arguably the vacancy risk should be much higher than 7.3. It's not always a measure of where you're at. It's a measure of where are you going.
But that means it's a post-reference. It should be vacant in the future because we give the vacancy allowance for the chronic vacancy. That's what we do usually as a practice. but any building could go vacant, right?
Well, the specific vacancy issues that it would be concerned about is on page 3, is that both leases expire within 2 months of each other in 2 more years, 2.5 years. That's bad. You lose one, and how long is it gonna take the lease up? The other is the quality of the covenant, as we spoke before. If it's a local covenant or a weak covenant and it goes vacant, it may not even last a term, and that's something the investor cares about. So arguably, the vacancy risk here, remember, we're measuring risk, not experience, could be higher. Sometimes the risk is demonstrated by actual experiences when you have a chronic vacancy. Sometimes it's just estimated. In this case, we're estimating.
Okay, that's your opinion. That garden.
No, it's not my opinion. Got a textbook here.
I know, but as a practice, we are giving anytime vacancy allowance if it's experiencing chronic vacancy. We don't have any problem with that. If it's the property is vacant more than 24 months or 12, sometimes it's more than 12 months, we giving a vacancy
Sorry,
allowance.
I'm gonna have to object to
Yeah,
that
but-
question because the city has never shown their vacancy analysis to anyone. So I don't think you can ask me a question about how you prepare a vacancy when we've never seen it. I can answer my question because I know the city subscribes to this book.
But can I know the question very clearly about what you are looking for from the city? The vacancy analysis, how you came up with the 4% vacancy in this property?
No, 7.3 he came up with.
No,
Well,
I asked his question
The
to me.
seven, no, I object to you talking about how the city does it because nobody knows how the city's done it. So you can't bracket me against the city's floor and say, you can't use that as part of your questioning because it's a mystery. So
No, honestly, no, we
It
use the
isn't.
data.
it's a mystery. Now, we're open and transparent. So I have in front of me a report from Johnson, and it's, let's see how many pages we've got here. We've got page 76 to 92, so we have 16, yeah, my math's working, 16 pages. There's about 40 records per page of every single retail property in the city of Winnipeg, and in the period of time, what those are, and we can look at. I think Garden City might be right in this case, too. We know that retail 5.2 is the overall rate. We look at Garden City, yes, bang on, that there are 44 records, 1.8 million square feet. Now we look for anomalies. Now here's a problem. Garden City Shopping Center, 117,000 square feet vacant, so that is an anomaly. So, but we have it at 9.3, that was previous year. This year, I'm looking at the 18 report, 12.77. So that is an acceptable number because that was a prior, following period. Garden City, 12.8. Historically, it's been very high, ranging from a low of 4.4 to a high of 10.7, preceding the Garden City Square problems. So that's a reasonable number.
That's all my question, Mr. Chairman.
Jeff, do you have any questions?
I have none, thank you.
Brent?
And I have none.
And I'll have none this time. That'll conclude the matter. Or 14:24. We're gonna take a 5-minute break.
Sure, thank you.
They did. The next property on the agenda is 3670 Pembina Highway. When you are ready, Marina. There's an answer there.
3670 Roblin Boulevard.
I got one.
Yep, it's Roblin Boulevard.
Yep. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Roll number 0100142780. Property address 3670 Roblin Boulevard. Property owner 3670-3704 Roblin Boulevard, Inc. Property originally valued at $2,600,000. Property classified as neighborhood shopping center. Property actual built in 1979. Use effective age as 1979. Property was sold in 2017 for $2,550,000. In page number two bottom, property has the list information for this property. Page number 3, my comparables. Those are within the Roblin Boulevard. Rent range vary from $11 to $26. Page number 4, it is the model-driven income calculation for the property. We use $11.20 per square foot overall rent as per the model. Use model-driven vacancy rate of 4%, 2% expenses, and 6.55 cap rate on this property. And you can see page number 5 has the pictures for the property, the location, and the units. And my income expenses made at page number 1. They reported income and they reported rent roll. And I did some work on this property rent roll. It seems to be some units are semi-gross. Some units are net rent, some are semi-gross. They are paying combination of rents there. And also after my page number 3 of income expenses mailer, I have attached the sales verification sheet. This property at the time, it's as a zone value for this property $2,055,000 for this property. And as the person who submitted this mailer, they submitted as it's an arm's length transaction. It seems to be filled by their management company. It's a Colliers. Filled the information, and it seems to be it's not filled every information here. And it has appraisal. Then appraisal is copyright. They did not provide what is the value for that property, but it's the value for land titles used as a sworn value of $2,550,000 for this property. So based on this evidence, I'm kindly asking confirm the value as it is. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Newfeld, questions?
Yes, on the, I guess there's no page number here, the sales verification form.
Yes, it's after the income expenses made.
Right, now, question number 1. Why didn't they verify that information as to this consideration? Do you know?
Can you explain the question again, please?
The question on page 1 is the consideration paid shown above the correct total sale price? Do you know why they didn't answer that?
It seems to be the person not aware about that.
No, that's the next one. If no, enter the correct amount, not aware.
Yeah, but he did not fill some information. I think he didn't know.
You think, so you didn't ask him? You didn't then follow up and ask? I mean, this is a very important question, isn't it?
No, we did not call them again. No, honestly, I did not. I don't know anyone else did, but I do not.
Now, on page 2 of A Fresh Look, which is a I guess the third last page,
Okay.
you'll see that this property was listed under retail,
Yes.
and there was another property sold the same date.
The Portage Avenue property, you mean
Yes,
3166?
3166 Portage, same time as 3670 Roblin.
Yeah.
So were you not aware that this was a multi-role sale?
Honestly, I will explain what I know. I cannot explain, I don't know this is a multi-role sale or not, but as I know, as I heard, there's 11 properties that from the same vendor sold to same purchaser at the same time, but every property has their own sworn value attached with it. That's all I know.
Okay, now, the city assessor is following IAAO standards, as you say on the last page.
Yes.
Now, you were aware that in standard and ratio studies says do not use multi-role sales?
Do not use multi-role sale? Yes, I do.
Getting back to the income workup on page 4, was this all generated by the model?
Yes.
And you call this a strip mall then?
Yes.
Okay. In your pictures on page 5, what are those white things in front? You didn't take these? Or did
No,
you?
no, those are all the Google views. Those are the storage compounds for the
What
pods.
date was this? Because you clipped off the date on this, do you know? Am I not mistaken?
I don't know the date, but this should be recent pictures. Recent pictures.
Those are my questions, thank you.
Brent,
I have no questions.
Jeff,
I have no questions.
on with your presentation, Mr. Mitchell.
Thank you. The sale was, I believe, 13 properties owned by Frank Spivak, sold to a company called P3. The principal is Don White in our office. Certainly not relying on the sale prices or any cap developed, and I don't know if you need to hear this again and again, but I didn't bring it with me, but Colliers in our reporting specifically said, do not rely on this sale in response to the income and expense questionnaire. The assessor has not put our title pages, but we specifically warned them not to because we know that it was not based on the operating income. This was an opportunity project. This is, all of them were. They were turnaround sites. The investment window on these is 10 years. And 10 years of getting them back to performing, and then after that is when they will mature into investment properties. So these are project properties. So knowing that, like I said, we have warned the city on the form, and additionally, the person who filled out this sales questionnaire, I helped them with it. Because we did not want anyone to rely on this. And it's not for the subject property's own appeal. We didn't want to see this enter into anybody's studies, because it's not a revenue property. It wasn't sold on that basis. So we're obviously always objecting to the city assessor's a fresh look, where 2 of the properties from this portfolio are included in cap rate sales. Not only are we're telling you it's not that, but we've warned them. We've been proactive in this. Don't rely on this sale. So the window is interesting. It's a long-term investment fund that spends the first 10 years guaranteeing their unit holders 0 income. And 10 years after that, they say, was when the income is going to happen, because it's a rebuilding process. The reason that it's that long is because, interesting, the assessor asked the question earlier, what are lease lengths? 5 to 10 years. You have to go through a whole cycle of letting people's leases run out and changing it all. So when you're doing the value on this, you can figure out a rate of return, but you've got to do it the right way. And that's not a point-in-time cap rate. That's a DCF, discounted cash flow analysis with a 20-year window. And in that system, you take all the income for the next 20 years, hypothetical sale at the end, all the expenses that are incurred along the way, subtract them, and discount those numbers based on your expected rate of return for your unit holders, add it up, and that's how you get your value on it. It's a different product, completely different, and more on an investment style sale, not a market transaction that will produce a cap rate. And when I mean investment, I mean a real, that's the window that you've been given. So until it reaches that stage, if this property were put back on the market in its current condition, then the value has to consider how much it's currently earning. And as I said, it's like, the best analogy is planting a crop. And in this case, the crop's going to bloom in 10 years. It's a very rare one. No, this is a very common thing happening, especially when you are, it will relate to your investors' needs. The company is called P3, Private Pension Partners. I'll give you an idea that this is based on a long rate of return. Now, some of you are already retired, you're not going to want to invest in this because you may not last that long. I'm just joking here, but there's a target market on this. The actual income that they've been able to generate after taking over is significantly higher than the previous income. Now, on the statements we've given you, we only have a March to December statement, and that's showing a net income of $124,000. So what was done is then we estimated by a full year, and that's just extrapolation, pure extrapolation, and that comes to $149,666. Then to check that against performance, we have a post-reference statement from 2018, not presented as evidence, just merely to see is our reasoning correct, and that's now at 159. Not only does that support what we're doing, it also supports what I'm saying about this being a long-range plan with income that should grow at a greater rate than a typical income on a property like this. The only issue in the statement that I just noticed was on page 3, there is I guess the 5th item, a current year CAM adjustment, or 4th item I should say. Now with the last property, I knew what that was because I knew that was because of the dispute. This one is not. This one is a one-off number, so that number should be deleted as a deduction from the value. So what that means is our NOI of $133,564 should be $140,389. Then as far as the cap goes, now the assessor asked us me a very interesting question about why did you use 7.5 in the middle? Why not start at the end? Because sometimes things are better than that. Now on this one, we put a 10 out of 10 for income growth potential, but you already see it's growing because it's going to continue to grow. So that should actually be a 12 out of 10. That's what the failure we made here, whoever made this did. And so the cap rate that should be ends up being at 8% rather than 8.25 because it's got growth potential, and investors love growth potential. There are some other problems. The parking is on the low side. Now the way these parking things happen that don't meet bylaw is that someone comes along and they qualify as an office tenant rather than retail. So office has a different bylaw requirement for parking. So the downside in this is that if you wanted to switch to all retail, you would have to find some parking. If you maintain a ratio of, and I'm just looking at the tenant list here, we have 2 medical clinics which operate under, I think it's a 1 stall for $550 rather than a 1 stall for $250 for the corporate ones, for the retail ones. So that would be why they're getting away with it now. It does limit their adaptability when a new user comes along, and the Boulevard Pub and Bistro requires 1 stall per 100, and that's putting the tax on it right now. So we had calculated 66 on the current tenant rosters. That's a bit of a downside. So we're at 140,389 at 8%. Should be 1,754,863, rounded to 1,755,000, which is an increase over last year, when their market has shown no tendency to increase. So this is growth per their 20-year plan. Thank you. That's my presentation.
Questions, Brina?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This property zone value is $2,550,000. Why the owner pay land title transfer fees on that high amount? This property is worth less than that.
Well, it's not always the owner's option to do that as to what to declare. Now, when you're dealing with a transaction like this, there are 2 parties to it. So on one side you have the vendor, and then you have the purchaser, and the vendor has his own motivation in his sale, and well advised by lawyers. There are capital gains considerations on one side. If the owner, the vendor can pick up his improvement as a capital gain rather than taxable, there's an advantage for him. So this is just the way the transaction goes. And the other thing about it is, this is a good, reliable operator. They're not really thinking of the 2% cost at land titles to avoid it. They're thinking about the long-range plan. Just difference in style.
Okay. And do you agree this property now has a better tenants than the before?
As what?
Better tenants, the stronger tenants in this property?
Well, what they've done is, if you take a look at the rent roll, is they're shifting, they're recovering more. And the building was full of gross tenants. Now, if you look at the newest, some of the newer leases, you can see that they've upped their recovery rates. And they're getting more, they're moving to a net basis. And that will take lease expiries, and you can see that they're dealing with a fair number of them that are coming in 19, 20, and 21. So moving to, even if you keep the rent the same, but you designate some as net and some as recoveries, then you can insulate yourself from the ups and downs of taxes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all my questions.
Brent?
I have no questions.
Jeff?
I have no questions.
And I got no questions. That concludes the matter for the property located on 3670 Roblin. Move on to the next property at 83 Sherbrook Street, please, when you are ready.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Property roll number 1209052130. Property address 83 Sherbrook Street. Property owner 5404045 Manitoba Limited. Property originally valued as at $2,456,000. This property classified as a neighborhood shopping center. Actual year and the effective year built is 1980. You can see page number 3 for my comparables. And page number 4, my original income calculation. Today I'm making a recommendation to reduce value to $2,152,000 based on the rental adjustment, net adjustment of net operating income, using the same cap rate of 7.9. And my,
2,152,000?
yeah, 2,152,000.
Thank you.
And we have to bring that to the owner, but, the assessor's aware of it, so.
You're accepting it for now.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
That'll conclude that matter. 33 Sherbrook. Let's move on to 1039 McPhillips Street. Maybe we'll be lucky to have a wreck there too. When you're ready, Marina.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Property address, sorry, property roll number 1409967400. Property address 1039 McPhillips Street. Property owner 1039 1055 McPhillips Street, Inc. Property value as at 2,374,000. This property also used classified as a neighborhood shopping center. Its building range of 1956 to 1978. Effective age we use 1980. This property also has sales history. This property also sold in 2017 March 7th for 2,975,000, and this zone value also this property 2,975,000 for this property. For this property, no mailer received for this property, but I have checked the company search to see about whether is there any relation between the two parties. I haven't seen any relationship between parties for this property. And page number 3 bottom, subject leases are there. It's vary from $8.01 to $17. Page number 3 are the comparables, and page number 4 is a market income information, model driven. We use the $12 per square feet overall rent to calculate the final value. Capitalization rate is 8.15 based on the location. So final value for this property 2,374,000. You can see the pictures in page number 5. And income expenses made information attached in my end of my brief. I did some work on finding what type of leases they have. They also have semi-gross leases here. Some are net, some are semi-gross, some are gross rent. So also they are recovering taxes more than they actually reported in here. Property tax recovery gross, they reported 345, but they were actually recovering 23,245 as per my calculation. So based on this information, I'm kindly asking to confirm the value as it is. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Questions, Mr. Neufeld?
Sorry, you mentioned something about property tax recoveries.
Yeah,
Now, the statement you're looking at is a partial year, correct?
yeah, it's March to December.
Right. So,
But I believe the master rent roll for the year, that
well,
period,
it sold in March, correct?
yeah.
So when a property is sold, there's an adjustment for taxes, correct?
Yeah,
So the new owner is only paying taxes for 10 months out of the year, but his tenants are recovering for the entire period. So that goes into the adjustment then, does it not?
but that's for the tenants are paying for March to December.
No, tenants are paying for the full year.
Tenants are paying for the full year, but
And-
the owner is only getting for 9 months of taxes, because it's sold in March.
Right, but,
Yeah.
but then he's gonna have to give that recovery back to the owner, to the vendor, because of the adjustment. I'm
For
just
the
wondering,
3 months,
I'm
yeah,
just-
for the
I'm just
3 months,
wondering if
yes.
you're aware
No,
that
no,
that's
no,
what
I know,
happens in
for the 3
sales.
months, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay, all right. And were you aware that this property was part of the portfolio of?
That
that
one of
included
the 11 properties?
3670 Roblin and?
Honestly, I understand about that, the sale, but my
Okay.
consideration is they have a sworn value,
That's fine.
yeah.
Okay, so it's part of that portfolio. And so the valuation on page 4, is that all by the model?
Yes.
Thank you.
Jeff,
No questions, thank you.
Brent,
I have no questions.
on with the presentation.
Thank you. So, same as before, we have a March to December, and it was extrapolated, and you can see it was extrapolated 139,000, and the following year was higher at 180. Now, there's an error in this, because in the statement, there are several adjustments that were prior period and also vacancy that should have been taken into account. They totaled 13,000, wrote it down somewhere. I prorated them for the whole year to 15,636, which has to be added back to the NOI. So my NOI is 129,948. And I don't have a problem with the assessor's cap rate. I've already discussed the particular investment scheme on this. Got nothing to do with where you're located. 8.15 is acceptable. 8.1. So our value is 1,594,000. Yeah, I don't know what wrong here. Okay, sorry.
Rounded to that.
No, I blew a decimal point here. Okay, 1,594,454, which is rounds to 1,594,000, which is above last year. Again, should have been flat, but they are showing revenue growth. There's another point about the sale, and I should bring it up. Again, just to make sure that the doubt is properly cast on the sale. The majority of sales that this investment group have done have resulted in former owners taking some equity positions in the new site. So nothing wrong about it. It simply makes the sale much more questionable in terms of being a market value indicator. Thank you.
Questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Newfeld, I have a really question to you. You know about these sales more than us. Why didn't you attach it to your brief for all the sale information? Then everyone can see it and everyone can understand better.
Well,
why you bring up as a verbal evidence at the hearing?
Well, first of all, you bring up verbal evidence because you're not entirely sure what evidence the city has, and so to be fair, we have the right to respond. And you brought up the discussion of the sales. And because you brought that up, then we could enter our discussion on the sales. Normally, sales aren't relied on. So if you bring them up, my opinion is you're putting weight on them, and I have the right to cast doubt on that weight. And as far as notifying the city, totally incorrect. We notify the city every single year on our forums and saying, do not use these for your analysis.
I don't know we do use those ones for analysis, but...
Well, you did use them because two of them were in the cap rate samples that you're bringing forward to support your cap rates this year.
No. I know about that's the cap rate chart, but I don't know about the model. But the thing about if you know that the sale value should be lower, but it's really good support for your...
No, okay. So, but here's the problem with that. It's not an adjustable number. Like, a lot of times you can take a number, and if you have the information, you can adjust it and provide a value. When a transaction is not, doesn't meet the standards of market, there's no adjustment to it, it's just out. You don't rely on it, and that's the point.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all my questions.
Brent?
I have no questions.
Jeff? I have none. And I have none. On to the next property, which will be 2536 Main Street. When you are ready, Marina.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm making recommendations here.
You'll still have to read the information though.
Yeah. I already given one to Mr.
Good.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Property roll number 050094246160. Property address 2536 Main Street. Property owner 6835564 Canada Limited. Property originally valued as $2,236,000. This property used as an office. My income calculation I given, it calculated to $1,925,000. Main different here, I'm giving extra vacancy allowance. I'm including 12%, giving 12% vacancy allowance for this property. 3 units were vacant and it is 32% actual vacancy. I'm giving prorated 12% vacancy on this property. Then my value reduced to $1,924,000. That's my recommendation for this property.
Mr. Nicole?
Yes, we're accepting it.
You accepting it?
Yes.
Accepted.
Thank you, Mr.
I
Chairman.
mean, the owner still has to prove, but I think,
You got it? Hold on. Next property will be the last property at 741 St. Mary's Road.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Property roll number 080017111500. Property address 741 St. Mary's Road. Property owner Kingswood Estate Inc. Property value as $1,776,000. Property used as a strip mall. Original build and actual build. Effective age 1986. You can see page number 2, property lease information, and page number 3, rent comparables, and page number 4 is the income calculation. And this property also, me and Mr. Neufeld are very close for the rent we use. I'm using $14.50 per square feet overall blended rate. Mr. Neufeld is using $14.11. We are very close in here. The difference
we can
is
move to
$6.
right to the cap if you want.
Yeah, 6.55 is the cap rate. It is model driven. You can see page number 5, the property, the location and the condition. You can see in page number 5. And you can, it's the rent roll information attached. We don't dispute for any of those ones. Cap rate cap rate range is as per our cap rate chart 5.4 to 6.85. This is in the lower range. This is 6.55 cap rate used for this calculation. I am kindly asking confirm the value. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Questions, Mr. Nicole?
Page 4 then is all model,
Yes, it is.
and this is class strip mall.
Yes, it is.
So on the strip mall, this is towards the lower end of the range, I take it?
You mean-
The rate of 6.55%.
It's not the lowest, but
Well, it's below the median, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, those are my questions.
Brandon,
And I have no questions.
Jeff,
I have none.
on with your report, please.
Yes, in regard to the capitalization
Yeah.
rate, the property is a strip mall with local tenants as before. I keep repeating myself, but I'm pretty sure that Van Gogh's Pizza is not international.
It might be.
They spelled it wrong, it's G-O-E-S. Now, they put G-O-G-H, we could have thought about a Dutch conglomerate. Dancing Noodle, no, it's all local, and if you look at the quality of this is, again, another local service strip. So these are not capping at the low rents. There's nothing in it that would have an investor interest at all, and so we're looking for a cap. Again, the same workup as before. The only comment I would make is that I would say that I would put less emphasis on quality and condition and more emphasis on income growth potential, tenant strength, income stability. It's not that it doesn't have a good covenant, it's that it physically is not capable of attracting a good covenant. Thank you, that's my presentation.
Marina?
Mr. Newfield, the cap rate is 8.25 using this property?
Yes.
But what is the basis of the, can you explain to me?
Well, again, we looked at the Colliers and very loosely, if it slipped into our study, it would be by accident. It's not a quality site. And our range is 7 to 8. It's going to be at the higher end of the site, and on page 1, the person who wrote this put things as size, year built, quality, and condition. I think the focus should be on all of those factors leading to income instability, the local covenants, and the style that it is. This is, a strip mall in an investment sense requires anchors with good covenants, and that's how you get the best rates. So I think the city has lumped every single operation into one category for strip mall, and that's wrong. There are variations. They're not based on necessarily on age, size, and location. They're based on how good is the building, can it attract. Now, if you had an international tenant, covenant strength tenant, or a good covenant, would they be interested in this building? I don't believe so. And also on page 30, 5, we have a number of other strip malls, and again, I'm looking at 1799 Portage. It looks just as junky as this site. I don't know if there's a better word for that. And it has a mix of local covenants. 7.96, the one on Sargent, which is, of course, locationally deficient, and the one on Roblin. One of the reasons you're not seeing us bring forward cap rates of really, really good ones isn't because we're afraid of showing them to anyone. It's that I don't appeal any of them. People come to me to appeal properties because they're not the top of the cream of the crop. They're not the best properties. And you'll note that we're not bringing in top-notch properties. Those are the people who appeal because the city's got one standard everybody fits. It's not the way it works in real life.
And I have one, you are comparing this property to 1799 Portage and 819 Sargent and the Roblin Boulevard. Those three of the properties, actually cap rate is lower than the Portage is 7.96. Roblin Boulevard 7.81. Those are so much older than the condition-wise, so much rundown building than the subject property. But you are going with the higher cap rate than this cap rate.
Well, you know, when you say that they cap lower, the difference is insignificant and can be put down to any particular minor motivation of the time. Perhaps there were, well, I know in the case of 1799 that there was two people looking at buying it. My client did not originally come in at the price of, what did Tony pay for it again? $16.50, that was not his initial number. He got pushed up on that. He wanted to go lower. So each sale carries with it that. And then one could say, why not 10.8% at Sargent? There are a lot fewer people interested in it. So that drove the price down because of lack of interest. Roblin, there was a bit more interest. You get a little bit more competitiveness in the bidding process, and that has to be taken into account. So a minor variance of a quarter point is nothing. And obviously, picking the rate for appraisal, you can't argue a quarter point.
Yeah, but still actually I was so confused about the different information because the cap rate showing on the page number 20 for the Colliers, you rejected because of the 6.6 to 7 is lower, it's not the correct. Then you point out the strip mall cap rate should be between 7 to 8 in page number 25. Now we were using 8.25 is higher than the highest cap rate in page number 25. I'm really confused on this cap rate study.
Well, from what I'm listening to you is that you maybe are assuming that there's a really rigid formula. Now, what we're trying to do in the cap rates is we want to look at quantitative and qualitative analysis. So giving you examples is called qualitative, and this is what's sold in the market. There's no perfect match. It's not like a house where you can find 40 other houses that are just like yours. You're never going to find any two commercial properties that are identical. So that's what we call it qualitative. Then we switch to quantitative, which is to start with market studies and see where they would fit in the market spectrum. And that's how we narrow it down. And then we look at a reconciliation and say, does this make sense on both types of analysis? And if it doesn't make sense, we've done our job improperly, so we have to go back and figure out whether we went wrong. This is all part of the valuation process. Thank you very much for letting me explain that, because now I know I've complied with my requirements under use path.
But to me about the we are making opinion based on what we want. We are changing our opinion here and there to get the number we want.
Not
Kind of based on the principles. That's how I see it.
Well, you know, the work done in the back, and I have to be very difficult or careful how I explain this. We brought in actual sales that are not somebody else's work, they're our work. And except for the one that I was questioning on the chair, and I admitted that wasn't my work. But we're not appraising the top-notch sites that have I have 700 properties in the field this year. Of those, I'm gonna guess that maybe 10 fit the investment mold of a good property, because those people don't appeal, because their assessments are usually good, because there's more interest in them. The ones I'm doing are the miscellaneous ones, and that's why people appeal. It's just common sense.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Fran,
I have no questions.
Jeff, that concludes all the matters for today. Thank you very much for coming today. Shut it down, please. Maureen, you're always so polite.